Welcome to another video of Siebert Media. I have a guest with me. It's Peter. Hi, Peter.
Good morning, Martin. Nice to be here.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about Agile at scale. I wanted to say Jira at scale, which is kind of like similar. But let's talk about Agile at scale first.
Sure.
There's a lot of different frameworks out there, and a lot of our customers are using Jira, Atlassian Jira. Mm-hmm. And they ask us how does that match? Is it something that can go together? And if so, how am I going to do that?
Yeah, I think scaling is always a very interesting topic because, of course, everyone wants to be agile, or not wants to be, but maybe even needs to be agile in order to thrive and survive in the world of the digital. And so pretty much everyone who is creating products needs to be fast, and best of all, faster than the rest of the market, of course. So Agile has proven a very good ways of becoming faster, decreasing time to market, increasing predictability. So all the companies
adapt to changes and those things.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's the perfect thing for the VUCA world. But how can you do that when you're like really, really big? And we all know about Scrum, about Kanban, working in teams, end-to-end, cross-functional teams, self-organized, having no dependencies to other teams. That's a nice idea, and it has worked out for 20 years for a lot of companies. But also with our growing demands as humanity, the solutions also grow. And well, there is a lot of solutions out there where with a single team, you just don't do anything. You cannot really improve the product. You cannot release the product. You cannot develop the product. So in order to do that, you need to scale. And that's something that especially large companies, of course, are embracing now.
And still there's routine processes in those big companies that still work, that still earn a lot of money. And you may not want to have too many changes in those working areas. So there's also like some areas where you may not want all this agility, or at least in a different form.
True.
And this is what we're going to be talking about in this video. So if you're in a big company, if you're a consultant working with people who are in this situation, if you struggle with the team because all the other teams are so stale and don't adapt, we may have some tools to help you. We may have some ideas how to apply them. We will look at a software that we create called Agile Hive. Mm-hmm. We're going to look at Jira Align, a software by Atlassian. Mm-hmm. Both are tailored to help customers who want to do scaling agile applications in Atlassian Jira. And this is also meant to be kind of a beginner's video, because I'm a beginner. I may be asking dumb questions, and
that's Peter, what we love you for. Asking the right dumb questions at the right time.
Let's see. Okay, so let me ask you first, like, people that you talk to, what do they struggle with the most? What's getting them through the door into the conversation? Is it that, I don't know, someone just said, now we need to scale this, or what's the situation? Is there a Big Mac situation that often appears?
Well, of course, we are being asked most often when it comes to tooling. But when you look behind the scenes, you quite often see that customers want to solve a problem with a tool that is not tooling originated. Usually the problems that arise with scaling Agile or Agile at all, especially in big companies, have to do with people. Mm-hmm. And most often it's the reluctance of management to not adapting change, to not adapting Agile. Maybe people have been working 10, 20, 30 years to get in the position they are in a system that has been working for so long. And now they're supposed to, kind of be open, kind of make themselves not needed anymore and become servant leaders. And I think there's a lot of just people stuff involved that kind of takes the speed out of becoming agile.
And is the tool then just a replacement for dealing with the real problems?
I think a tool is a tool, and the real problems are the real problems. And you need a hammer if you want to put a nail into the wall. And just choosing the right tool at the right time becomes crucial. But yet it's still a tool. One funny thing maybe, where maybe the real agilists out there shouldn't hear this, but what I heard as a sales consultant for Agile Hive for quite often was, well, we wanted to align the teams. We want to have common practices throughout the company, and actually, we kind of like that Agile Hive standardizes a lot of things, because now we can just say, well, Team A, it's cool that you had that extra workflow or this extra, whatever, but it's not supported by this tool anymore. Could we kind of say and start, all at the same level and do the same thing in order to just accelerate things? So, of course, that's not,
but it's, after all, it's still Jira. I assume they can tweak
of course
a lot
they can.
behind the scenes.
And Agile Hive is flexible, so...
What I like a lot about this discussion, and your answer is very similar, is first, as a company, you said where people approach us about tools. So we don't deal necessarily too much with the culture, with the organization, with all these non-technical things, which makes life easier for us. Because this is kind of like the hard part, the people and their brains and how they want stuff to work. And friends like Kegon and others deal with that much better than we do. The cool thing about tools, in my opinion, is they often, just as you described, lay out a path that makes things easy. And it's people just flock to things when you make things very easy. And I have seen customers at least project and then afterwards also say that it was successful, that they say, we're going to use that tool, I'm going to explain it to people, and as we need to have some sort of hammer to get the nail into the wall, the type of, or the way of doing things with this tool may inform how people think about that. And there is at least some truth to that, in my opinion. So you can get into a sportsman mode by just exercising, although you hate it. But at some point it will just be so routine that you just do it because it's your routine. And I don't recommend that this is the best way to become an agilist, and still the routine is kind of quite the opposite to adaptation and to be fast and those things. So I don't think that you can learn this with a tool, but still in Jira you get a lot of transparency by default. So definitely. You have to really work hard to make things as intransparent as it was yesterday. So, and most customers don't achieve that. So when they start using Agile Hive or Jira more, they get more transparency. Transparency is then a good pillar to get into more openness, more adaptability, because everyone now can see what the problems are and where the dependencies are and those things.
And even more so. I mean, it's not just about transparency and all the cool stuff that you can be doing with Jira, but especially with Agile Hive and also Jira Align and other specialized tools. You've been hitting on a point that I've been stressing for quite some time together with Kegon. We are very, very much convinced that a successful SAFe transformation, we're talking about SAFe a lot because it's by far the market leader. There's nothing, or there comes very few, very late after SAFe. It has a very...
What are the names that come later?
Well, less, of course, and Nexus, and there's other frameworks like Spotify that, that kind of help scaling Agile, that have different approaches, which are, but at the end,
if you're
kind of
as
all
far
kind
as
of
I
safe-ish.
am, there's only safe. I only hear customers talk about safe.
Yeah, I think they have been doing a very good job. Promoting.
And it's a commercial framework, right? It's not open source or something. There are people behind that, like a company that runs that.
We come back to that in a second. Just wanted to stress that point of when you scale Agile, you need to scale Agile. The first rule of scaling is don't. Because what companies often forget is, well, cool, there's this framework that kind of looks like a hierarchy that we already have. We can adapt to that really easily and, kind of...
The waterfall in Agile, yeah.
Exactly. Rename roles and then we're all safe and we're all Agile. No, of course, that's not the way to do it. The very important thing is when you need to scale Agile and you do so, there is... methodology and tooling become two sides of the same coin. You cannot separate them because, of course, with a Scrum team, you can have your pretty whiteboard and have your Post-its and, do all the fun stuff without any digital tooling at all. At least that's, what's being promoted. And that's true, of course, working people face to face is the best way to do that and not concentrate on any tooling stuff. But when you're talking about hundreds, thousands, maybe sometimes even 10,000s of people, of developers that you want to align their work with strategy, have their ideas kind of brought up to the big initiatives and then back down, and all that transparency that you've been mentioning, you cannot do that without proper tooling. And also, SAFe is reasonable as far as what training is concerned. I think when you know Scrum, it's for most people it comes quite easy, at least the basics. But also there's events, there's processes that you kind of need to foster every day on an everyday basis. And when you have tools that help you simplify this, acceptance grows much faster. You get more traction much faster. And again, when you're faster, time to market can become faster.
Okay, let's assume those people out there, they have all these culture and organizational things in control now. Let's talk about tools. Cool. And we also assume that you're running on Jira already, because otherwise at least I am really hands down, don't know too much. So you have to use Jira. And what options do I have? What tools are available? My knowledge is that Jira Align is like a separate tool that will tie into Jira through the API. And then there's a lot of options that we have within Jira, right?
I think maybe it's time to say, well, why don't we just do SAFe in Jira? Maybe I can share this little slide.
Show your slides.
Well, first of all, let's go back to SAFe. Kind of since you said it's a beginner's video, let's take a really brief look at what SAFe is all about.
That's the most recent as of our recording, right? SAFe 6.0.
6.0, exactly.
We're in July 2023, and that was in March or April? Okay.
Yeah, they released it in March, and so it's a growing framework. It's very elaborate. It is a combination of how Kurt, our friend from Kegon, always says, a combination of 100 books and 100 implementations. So it's has a very strong theoretical background, but also very, very strong practical background. So they keep improving the framework as we speak. And there's, I don't know how many people behind this now, but way more than 100, I think more than 200 even, especially in Colorado. And yes, it's a framework that earns them a lot of money, that costs a lot of money if you want to do it right. But that's just because you need all that training and you want to be fast. So you need that training for example, from our friends at Kegon that offer these trainings. So everyone is aligned as quickly as possible. But other than that, it's kind of like Scrum. Everything is there. So this is called the safe big picture. It has nothing to do with the app big picture for the Jira lovers out there. And it kind of visualizes the idea at least a little bit of
and they
what
work
Safe
with that
6.0 is all
every
about.
time, right? The Safe pros seem to love that. It must have some value in it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, making all work visible is a very important sentence. I've been a communication designer, so I know, as humanity, we're very eye-driven. The eyes are part of our brain, so anything that becomes visual comes clearer, even though this doesn't really is too clear, right?
Yeah.
So the idea, after all, is you have teams that work in an agile manner. You have Scrum teams, Kanban teams that as good as they can, have as little as they can dependencies, and
can I ask you one question about that? Like,
sure.
If I now have this, I'm a credit card company, and there's a lot of routine processes that we have, and I don't want them to be touched because I'm earning a lot of money with that. Is that fine with Safe, or does Safe say, no, there's agility in that as well, you need to adapt, blah, blah, blah. Everything is embraced by Safe. Or can I just say like, oh, this is still working, maybe I'm going to be disrupted tomorrow, but right now I don't see that. Let's focus on something else. Is that like this one ring to rule them all, or can I just leave out stuff?
What you're referring to is, I would say, is probably or a good example is the business value streams. So companies identify value streams end to end from order to cash, where they actually make their money. For example, a credit card
that
company.
already answers the question.
How agile you become there is all up to you. Of course, the more agile you become, the more, the quicker you might be. But as you said, if things are working fine for you, everything is good. Usually there's a tipping point to go Safe. And usually it starts with teams and then arts, because the so-called arts, agile release trains, also known as teams of teams. So, kind of when people come together, they form teams. When teams come together, they form arts in Safe. So that's the next integration hierarchy up. That's pretty much what Safe calls an essential Safe configuration. If you don't have that, if you don't need to have that, and you should concentrate on not having to need that, but if you need it, if you need to have that integration, we're talking about essential Safe. We have teams and teams of teams working together on products, usually on features that are delivered. So that's the basis of it all. And that's what makes Safe safe. But the more mature companies get, the more disruptive the markets get. There's a very, very high emphasis on business agility. So I think that kind of answers your question. When and
so if I want to work on the value stream, then I should also include the...
Exactly. So the goal is business agility, or Safe
to the tools. What can I do in Jira? What can I install? What does Jira do out of the box? Which apps could I use?
Let's get back to this picture really quickly. We have teams that work with, kind of like, a product owner, a scrum master, a team coach, and the development team. Then we have these teams of teams that work on the former called program level. They kind of ditched that word, and now it's the art level, where we kind of have the same responsibilities. And if we have to even scale further and we have large solutions, we can have large solution trains that have even more integration points. And we always find kind of the same responsibilities. Who's responsible for doing the right stuff? Who is responsible for the productivity of the teams and the work? And who's actually doing the quality work? And now we come to your question about tooling. Jira is very strong and has always been very strong on team level. It's always been a tool that has been helping agile teams do their work more efficiently, more transparently, and stuff like that. So why don't we just do Safe in Jira? Because of that exact same reason. We are missing the Safe hierarchical layers. We're not talking about business hierarchies and who is reporting to who. We're missing these layers. you know that.
So no art level, no large solution level. Yeah. Okay.
It's just not there. Jira is focused on the team. We have stories and tasks that can be done by the teams. And then we have the Jira Epic. And the Jira Epic, as I understand, was always meant, if it was too fuzzy in order to put it into a story, or it kind of connected as a container, multiple stories, that's when the Jira Epic came into play. Now, of course, what you can do, and that's usually what most people that try to adopt SAFe in the beginning on an essential level do, is they kind of form a pseudo hierarchy. They use the Jira Epic not as a team level item, but as a art level item. So they kind of rethink, or now you can even rename it.
Feature in
exactly.
Yeah.
You could call that work item then a feature. That would be kind of like what the story is on a team.
But Jira doesn't offer that out of the box, right?
You can rename it now globally.
Okay.
You can rename the Jira Epic to feature, I believe. But the problem that we had with Agile Hive when we were thinking about this is the art level is pretty much where all the music plays in SAFe. And by saying this, you would expect a lot of flexibility and a lot of issue types on that level. So you can, kind of cope with all the stuff that's going on there. But with the Jira Epic, you just have one, because the Jira Epic, there can only be one. On team level, on issue level, you can rename stuff. You can have as many issue types as you need, but the Jira Epic is just solitary. And that's kind of boring, kind of bad. It can be solved. And a lot of other apps use this pseudo hierarchy, as I would call it, with that Jira Epic. The same is true for Jira Align, by the way, since it connects to Jira. It's a standalone tool that connects to Jira, and it uses the same hierarchy. So it's possible, but with Agile Hive, we've been going a different direction. So that's the main thing, the missing hierarchical layers. You can, kind of use...
Okay, let's run through the others quickly.
Yeah. Then artifacts are missing, what I've just been saying. Well, on the art level, the items that you would expect are at least the features. That's the market business-facing functionality that you develop, and enablers. So anything that kind of works into that. Maybe risks, PI objectives, impediments, stuff like that you would like to have on the art level. You just don't have it right away. The nomenclature might be different, especially when we're talking about the Jira Epic. When you learn SAFe, you get to know the epic as a long runner that is not tied to a PI, a planning interval.
Okay, and now you have the same term in Jira, but
way
something different. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's oftentimes a bit awkward. You don't have PIs in Jira. Scrum, sprints, no problem. But you don't have PIs.
Which could be 3 sprints or something like that.
Yeah, usually a PI consists of let's say 5, 6, 7 sprints, and it's the planning interval for the team of teams. So when integration should be done. Back in the days when the Agile release train was releasing. The idea was kind of that you have these fixed points to actually, be able to release. Now in the days of continuous delivery, that's of course not true anymore, but still they just renamed it from program increment to planning interval. So PI is still PI. And I think it's very, very cool that they renamed it, because it's a planning interval. So it gives the company the entire art. And that's the cool thing. A PI planning involves the entire art. So there's up to 130 people all working together, at the best in one big room, working 2 days together to do a kick-ass planning. So predictability is very high, confidence is very high, and everyone knows after 3 months we will have done this and that, still in an agile manner. But this PI cadence is just not there in Jira. Mm-hmm. What we hear a lot is that, of course, you can do that. You can do anything with Jira, of course. You can use the release management and, for example, use a fixed version for the start and end date of a PI, for example. But it's just, it interferes with the release management then again. Mm. Then there's a lot of stuff where that SAFe is using kind of like Scrum, it's drawing from cool things from the past, from now, from the future that has been proven to work well in an agile manner. They kind of put that together. It's kind of what I said about the 100 books. That's the same in SAFe. So there's a lot of stuff that you might know from other frameworks, like the weighted shortest trip first as a prioritization means. Very objective and very easy once you have it installed to compare things, how important they are, how urgent they are. Dependencies, very important issue. You want to get rid of
the green
dependencies.
lines, the yellow lines, or the red lines where I can see, okay, this should be already completed, but it's not. So I can start the other one, which is planned earlier. That's the dependency, right?
There's different quality of dependencies. I think oftentimes they're visualized as lines in the SAFe context, especially on the
don't they do it
planning
with boards on the physical boards?
Yeah, so that's really cool. But after all, the dependencies are anything that kind of that's either risky for your for the delivery of your feature, that something needs to happen, that a bug needs to be fixed, or a contract needs to be made, or whatever. And at the same time, we have more operative. Chronological dependencies where team A needs to have done something in order for team B to be able to continue on the work on that. So there's multiple different qualities of dependencies.
What I'm asking myself is, this is kind of a list of features that Agile Hive adds to Jira, right? Kind of like,
yes.
Those are not challenges without, and we'll solve this with Agile Hive. But how am I going to do this with Jira Align? So do they have this in the Jira Align software then?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, maybe you could show us later.
Yeah, I think we should go quickly through Agile Hive and Jira Align so you get a grip of what it's all about and how Atlassian positions Jira Align compared to how we position Agile Hive. And then since we want to talk about, well, why don't they play together, what the difference is. Because even at Cyber Media, there's still people that think Jira Align and Agile Hive are competition, even though they're totally different tools. Because as you've seen, the big picture of SAFe kind of shows how complex SAFe can be, because it needs to solve very, very complex issues. We're talking thousands and thousands of people in very, very large companies. So there is no easy answer. So the use case of SAFe is not a narrow one. It's very, very wide. And Agile Hive and Jira Align serve quite different use cases that very well play together.
A summary in a nutshell?
Sure. Let's go through this really quick because we're almost done. SAFe boards is a lot of stuff. And one thing that I really like, we love Jira because you can do anything with Jira, but then of course you need to you have to do everything with Jira. So you need to understand what needs to be done. You need to be able to configure it. People need to understand it, work with it. So usually it's a lot of configuration needed, and you never know if there's a new team.
I remember a couple of customers. Back in the days when we started with Atlassian, it was with Confluence. And I was giving a demo of Confluence, and there was always someone in the room saying, "Oh, we can do this with SharePoint." Mm-hmm. I was like, "Really? Yeah, we can." And then, if we extend this, if we code something for that, and then say, "Oh, okay, but this is like..."
It's possible,
yeah,
but
it may be possible, but how about we just use what I just showed you? And it was very similar in the early days of Agile Hive. We were also putting together a lot of stuff with other apps, right?
I think a dozen of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was a dozen of apps. And it also had this extensive configuration. And the challenge was that if you had an empty Jira, we could come in and install that easily. But no one has an empty Jira. They all have hundreds of thousands of issues already.
Yeah.
And they want to use that. And then say, oh, holy, we had to sell massive projects, so that young Kunja would come in and configure things. And it was also part of the sales process, because they said, oh, we're not going to buy it until we see it. And this extensive configuration is exactly what you're doing. If you're trying to, I don't know, use some structure and use some big picture, and then, oh, somehow we can manage it. Yes, probably.
Yeah.
But challenge is, if anyone leaves the company who has done that, you're kind of like step zero again and trying to figure out how all this works.
And training must have been a horror. I mean, you know, with Agile Hive, there's everything kind of looks the same, has the same feel, and things learned.
Once we came to this one app to replace all the 12, that was horror, because people then had to switch. And,
I remember
we had this extensive configuration with a couple of customers, and then for new customers, there was no problem. They would just install this one app and everything was fine. But for everyone else, there was no way of getting any migration. It was all manual. And
I remember the pain that the Jira consultants went through.
Someone watching this video, put a comment in there. You may have been there, and
I know of one very big engineering company and also a very big telecommunications company that have been going through this pain with us. Thank you very much for that, and I think they're very happy now. But something that's also true, since Agile Hive was or consisted of multiple apps that, of course, had also different functionality. Going back to just one app with just the save functionality that we brought into it, for some was, you know, kind of going back, because they have been doing cool stuff with other apps like Structure. Structure is one app that works very well together with Agile Hive, and a lot of our bigger customers use Structure in addition to Agile Hive still.
We don't market like that. We don't try to replace 12 apps.
No way.
I think that all these 12 apps probably have their existence or reason for existence in apps, but not for the same reason. Like we just got them up to try to do all these things, and that's not needed anymore.
But then you brought in more functionality that actually wasn't needed for the save context,
but it's
still being used, and then you had it.
And that's also the reason why these products were built in the first place, right? So Structure is just a very cool way to get rid of, I can only have stories, tasks, subtasks. Now I can have like a hierarchy of, I don't know, 10 levels, and in some cases...
And you can build as many hierarchies as you want. You can build as many structures as you want, automate them. It's a really cool tool, definitely. So Structure definitely is also one app that is not from Cybert Media, that's not from Atlassian, now belongs to Tempo. And that is being used excessively in the Save or in the Scaled Agile context.
So we should name a Big Picture as well.
Big Picture,
they have been
Structure.
It was softball planned, and they have been bought by AppFire.
Exactly.
I think Easy Agile
Programs is usually the tool that helps you manage PIs and dependencies. So that's, especially for the essential Save context, a really cool and easy to use tool.
Yeah, that's when we're talking within Jira. That's what I hear a lot. Is there others?
Well, the formerly portfolio, now advanced roadmap / plans from still being used from Atlassian. That is being used in the beginning, especially. That has some advantages because it's just there.
Do they market that as a safe solution?
As far as I know, Atlassian says, well, as long as you're happy just with Jira before scaling really kicks in, use that, and then put Jira Align on top.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're just staying within the Atlassian systems, then that's the best way to go from Atlassian side. Yeah. Well, last but not least, I think that's the last point. We're talking the Scaled Agile Framework. So Agile is all about collaboration, about communication, a lot of content that needs to be discussed. And I think every Jira admin in the world would say, yes, that's very important to do that in Agile, but don't do that in my Jira, because Jira is it's a process management tool and not a content management tool. So whenever you need to work with large chunks of content, there is Confluence. So Agile Hive leverages the connection between Jira and Confluence in order to do so. And in Jira Align, you have
there's also this automatic page creation thing and syncing and that. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to the nutshell. I think since we wanted to have a beginner's video, I'd stick with the big picture, because in order to think scaling Agile, you need to at least get used to the SAFe 6.0 big picture. And I think it's also very easy to show what the big difference is between Jira Align and Agile Hive. Let's start with Agile Hive, since we've talked about the challenges of scaling Agile with or in Jira. Agile Hive takes that away. Well, that's a no-brainer. That was the idea. We want to simplify with Agile Hive. We want to simplify how people work with the SAFe framework in the known environment of their Jira. So there's quite little configuration needed. There's quite little training needed, or even no training. If you know your way around SAFe and you know Jira, Agile Hive comes quite naturally to you usually. So simplifying is what it's all about.
What I'm doing is I'm going to the Atlassian marketplace. I'm searching for Agile Hive. I'm installing the software either on Jira Server, as long as it's still there, Jira Data Center or Jira Cloud. And then there's an onboarding process in the software, right? That will help me.
There isn't really an onboarding process that would help you all the way through, but there is, I don't have that as bookmarked here, but there's, I can show you here. Hold on. There's a documentation on our Infotech that once it's loaded, that will guide you through the process of installing Agile Hive. Installing Agile Hive, if you as a Jira administrator have an idea of what SAFe wants from you and you know your Jira, starting from scratch is very easy. That's what you said before. It's very easy because all you need to do is set up, you have this getting started guide, a user guide. That's the easy part. So if you just say, well, we have a plain new Jira instance, we install Agile Hive on top, we know which SAFe configuration is found in our organization, you kind of remodel that in Agile Hive. That's the easy part.
The hard part... Interrupt you again here. So this is not in conflict with using Jira Align at all, because there is no Jira Align app that will do the same thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where we can kind of jump back and forth between is kind of looking at how Agile Hive ticks and how Jira Align ticks and how Jira ticks in between, or as the common ground. The hard part when you install or when you want to use Agile Hive or any other app is when it comes to using existing Jira projects. You know, people have been doing work in Jira and they want to keep that work in Jira. Then you need to kind of migrate these projects into a new idea that Agile Hive brings to the table. With,
can you talk about what this technically means? Do we change issue types then, or what is migrated?
Let's jump right into the administration of Agile Hive. Don't worry, you don't need to be able to administer Jira or Agile Hive in order to understand it, but there's a very cool setting that kind of shows the idea behind Agile Hive. It's called project hierarchies. It's kind of the centerpiece of it all. So, taking a look at this, we have portfolios, we have large solutions, we have arts, and we have teams. So now when we take a look into Agile Hive, you kind of find the same thing. If you only have, as I said,
it's a little bit simpler.
Yeah, as we said, the essential SAFe, so anything that deals with teams and arts, if you only have that set up for the beginning, especially usually the implementation roadmap of SAFe kind of says, well, you probably want to launch your first few arts, learn, then kind of scale further. If you do that, no problem. Agile Hive grows with your needs. But the idea is you kind of remodel the safe configuration found in your organization in Jira with full-grown Jira projects. So each of these boxes that you see back here, meaning every team, every art, in this case, this large solution train, this portfolio, they're individual Jira projects with all the flexibility, all the work items, issue types, workflows, and so on.
Let me guess. So the green ones, the normal projects, can almost stay as is, while the art, the solution train, and the portfolio will have different feature and enabler and other kind of issue types in their project then.
And the music with Agile Hive always plays on the essential level. We have to say that. So a lot of customers have already kind of a setup like this. So each team has its own Jira project.
Mm-hmm. And we just tie them together then.
Exactly. You need to kind of have to bring them into here. You need other workflows.
Do we need changes on this level as well?
You need to have, there's a few mandatory issue types, or at least issue type.
That's probably too detailed there.
Yeah.
How would I do this in Jira Align? Can you, do you know the software well enough to show us there, or at least give us an overview?
Let's look into this really quick, because it's pretty much Jira Align would like you to have the same setup. So we're already close to, why don't we just work together with Agile Hive and Jira Align? Mm-hmm. What needs to be done is we get rid of the Jira epic. Mm-hmm. That usually is that pseudo hierarchical feature, and we have our own issue type on this level. So for each art, we also have to have our own project, and we even deliver scripts that help you get rid of the Jira epic, replace it with the the correct issue type, replace the links correctly, and once that is all done, you're ready to work with Agile Hive in Jira. And now, one thing that I just want to stress is always remember the essential safe level is where actually most of the work is done. So the teams do the work. So at least, I would say 95% of people involved in the safe context work on these two levels.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is exactly what Agile Hive is focused on. We want to make the work that people would be doing in Jira anyways as easy as possible for them in the safe context, and really enable them to become quicker, to have more fun at work, to do dependency linking easier, to do their planning easier, to make life a bit easier for them in the safe context. So acceptance is high, because that's also a very, very important factor in the whether a safe transformation is successful or not. One is management buy-in, and the other is acceptance by the teams. After all, if 90% of the people hate it, it won't work. And we're talking Agile, so the people have the power. And having said this, we can jump back here and say, well, okay, the main functionality, the main fun with Agile Hive is down here on team level and integrating up into the art level. Up here, it's possible to build your structure with Agile Hive, but the functionality is limited up here, because that's not what we're focused on. That's not what Jira is focused on. Up here, we're talking management. How many managers do you know that love Jira, except you?
I have no idea. I'm too detached today, I would say, to answer this question. But my understanding is that Jira Align is stronger in this area.
Exactly. Yeah. So Jira Align is a standalone software that has a connector to Jira, or even to many Jiras. You can have as many, I don't know if it's true, but as many as you want Jira instances that you can connect to Jira Align. You can even connect Jira Align to Azure DevOps, because that's kind of growing in some markets. You can even connect it via the API to other team tools, and have this top-down view from this level up. So the art level is kind of the
CEO and all the major corporate planners that will use Jira Align to steer the whole company.
And especially portfolio the portfolio management, I think, is the main factor in Jira.
Can you show us around? How's the software looking?
Sure. This is Jira Align. I'm wondering if I should show you in a presentation or the real deal. I think you always want to see the real. I know. Okay.
The real deal. I'd rather have some bumps in the road and see the real software then.
Sure.
Instead of slides.
Oh, so this is very, very superficial. Now we're just taking a look into Jira Align.
Yes, please.
Jira,
That's okay.
Jira Align has by the way, they have just released a new navigation. I haven't even seen it myself. Let's see if it still works. If I've been kicked out. Skip. See, so they kind of try to make it more Jira-like. Mm-hmm. You might know Atlassian has acquired the tool.
Yeah.
And so
I know the founder.
We met him in Zurich.
Yeah.
And what they're really trying to do is make it more Jira-like, which is cool. So, once you have learned something, you can always apply it again. But I will jump back to the old navigation because I'm still familiar with the old navigation. After all, it does the same thing with a little bit of a different setup. First off, Jira Align is built for very complex situations. So, if you have 500 developers up, and 500 is very small number. Usually Jira Align really has its
it's a pretty big number in my world, but if you have 500 developers, you're a very big company.
Oh no,
already.
we're talking not just software development, but cyber physicals, automotive, aviation, whatever. That's where Jira Align really has its big impact. Or like in large organizations that kind of globally lean towards safe and want to connect the different countries, the different Jira instances, the different people, all into one bird's eye, so they can do as agile as possible planning and increase predictability. That's where Jira Align really comes into play. Lean portfolio management and enterprise management is very the main factors to me. There's a lot of other stuff that you can do, and it's very, very rich with functionality. So in order to cope with this complex situation, we have to say it is also a bit of a complex piece of software. Mm-hmm. You can configure it down to your needs and kind of have it grow with your needs. But you can easily say that it's meant for complex situations. This is one point that helps you reduce complexity. It's the tier 1 navigation where you can decide which part of your organization would you like to take a look at. For example, let's say we're looking at there's these portfolios. Oh, that's the arts. There's the portfolios. Can get rid of this art. We can take a look at the different portfolios. We have a total enterprise drill down and see, what portfolios do we work in. You can click on these items and they will be then applied. So now I'm only looking at, I should be looking only at this one portfolio. I did something wrong. There we go. Oh, okay, I had another setup that was kind of contradictory. Yeah. And then you can say, well, I would like to not only look at just that portfolio, but also at a period of time, let's say, for example, this quarter. Or, whatever you have. You can use this navigation up on top in order to cope with the complexity and kind of drill down to really what you would like to see. And then everything you see kind of reflects only what you've chosen above here. Then we've learned the different levels in SAFe, or the layers in SAFe: team, art, large solution, and portfolio, and then enterprise above. There is no large solution configured here, which is quite common. So we're having a so-called portfolio SAFe configuration. And you can go top down by starting with the enterprise. every level has its own room. So there's a strategy room for the enterprise where you can set up, for example, for a so-called strategic snapshot, which is usually you can say, well, it's a fiscal year, for example. You can set up your company strategy, say, well, this is our mission, this is our vision. So there's all links. Of course, it's not just a visual, it's also content. What are our values? What are the strategic goals? Which themes are tied to that? The portfolio objectives, which portfolio epics execute these, and so on and so forth. This is all flexible. So this is not standard. You can, you decide how you kind of organize your organization, and you have a very, very high level view on what's going on in your company at any given point. Yeah, you said, can we just click through a few things? I think that's enough for now. If any of you guys out there are interested in Jira Align and Agile Hive in depth, please don't hesitate to visit our website and click an appointment with us, send an email or whatever.
And if you want the combination, you'll most likely end up with Peter.
Probably.
And yeah, we're happy to introduce you to that. And that's also why we record this video, right? Okay.
So the portfolio.
Is there a documentation where I could look all those 150 things up? Is there like a Jira Align website? Will show this, or do they have the software documentation? What do you recommend? Well, so I'm looking at this and say, I want to see all these reports and show them to my CEO.
There's, again, it's an extensive system, and I would say get in touch with us or with the partner of your choice. There's YouTube videos and stuff like that to start off with, of course. But if you want something specific, you have a specific role. Again, the use case of SAFe is very big, and this is there's multiple use cases in Jira Align which serve different roles. So you probably have some role, and you want answers for your role. And I think the easiest way is to get in touch with partners like us.
So basically, what you say is, this is pretty complex. We recommend that you get in touch, because it's much easier than trying to figure it out by yourself.
And also, but when you're in the system, there's always this help button. This help button will always give you context. What am I looking at? What should be? What would need to be here in order for me to see anything at all? And why might I not see something? So they've done a really good job in, kind of coping with that complexity by giving you help at any given point. That's also true for any report. So whenever you look at a report and you're not sure what does it show or why doesn't it show what I was expecting, the help button will help you. One thing that Jira Align does, what's really cool, is it gives you multiple options to have a complete drill down of your work. So you can kind of look from have this work tree. You can kind of look from all the way above to, from the portfolio epics to whatever you have underneath. There's in the demo system, there's of course not too much stuff, but you can click your way all the way through, which is really very, very helpful and something that people keep asking for. The same is true for roadmaps. If you're looking for a functionality in Jira Align, you have the search bar. That's very, very helpful. As you see, for every level, we have a multitude of entries in the navigation. You can just go here and, for example, type in roadmap, and you will be able to access whatever you've been looking for quite easily from the search bar. The road mapping is also very helpful if we have the right view. There's multiple views that you can use. We have a lot of financial information where you can, by Agile means, fund epics, see how far along we are. The roadmap is possible for you to look through, different scenarios. Anything planned here? I think I would need to have this time box here also. There we go.
Now we have something planned.
Exactly. Well, you see how this works. I haven't said which time period I want to take a look at. Well, and then I'm not looking at any time period.
Yeah.
And this roadmap is multi-tiered, so you can have a roadmap view of all of the things you're planning to do in the future, forecasted and even in progress, and drill down all the way from the portfolio epics through your features, even take a look at stories and have information how far along we are and stuff like that.
Agile Hive in my software, I would still be able to use all these features in Jira Align, right?
Now that's exactly the question. One thing that we have been doing that I explained before is on the art level, we have gotten rid of the Jira epic because we wanted to have more flexibility.
So you would get this information into Jira Align at this point.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're working on right now. And that's what I'm asking of you guys out there. If you're interested in enabling the people to simplify their work and gain traction with SAFe in Jira with Agile Hive, and at the same time you have a very strong need for lean portfolio management, enterprise management, all the planning that can be done in Jira Align.
And that's the work that you're doing with this team?
Exactly. We would like to see them both connected.
So it's also a learning video for me.
Yeah.
So just to give you some context, so we've been working with Atlassian and Jira Align team to try to connect those tools better together, and that's obviously one of the issues that we try to tackle.
Exactly. Yeah. So one thing that we have done for now, it's not pretty, but it works, is we have gone back a step in Agile Hive, and we have replaced the multitude of issue types that you could have on the art level and replaced them with the Jira epic again and set the correct link type, and then it works. So all the fun stuff that I would like to show you that you can do as a team, especially with Agile Hive. Let me give you this really quick insight. Since I said, it makes life easier for the teams. We have a report. We're on a team level. We're on a team project. It's just a plain project.
It's a burn-up chart.
Exactly. We have a burn-up chart with pretty messed up data since it's, script generated. You have very easy to understand.
That was too quick. On the upper left, this is the team that's working on this.
Exactly.
And then over on
with velocity, story points burned up to this point. How much time has passed?
That's really cool.
What's the business value? So it's really easy to understand. Every Jira project in Agile Hive has a report kind of like this, showing you the progress in the running PI. But this is as is. When you work with Jira/Agile Hive, this will be populated automatically. Mm-hmm. And the cool stuff, how you work with Agile Hive, is especially found in the team breakouts. During PI planning, there's team breakout sessions because, after all, the people have the power, the teams have the power. What they actually plan will be the commitment for the PI. So this needs to be fostered, and this is exactly what Agile Hive is really strong in. So you have a view at one PI consisting of, in this case, 5 iterations, sprints. The teams have already planned features, that's the blue lines. Anything that comes from the art level is bluish, and have broken down these features into stories. It's easy to plan because they can just open up this backlog tab here,
and then
drag and drop any feature that is ready to be planned, that has been promoted by the product management. Drag and drop that into this view, and then either break it down into stories just by clicking on this add button. Then usually, there's this, do this. And also what they can do is, if they have an existing team backlog, it's also found under this unplanned issues tab, and they can just drag and drop these stories or tasks or whatever they have already prepared into this view. And everything is done automatically. So when you create a story here, it's created, it is planned into the correct sprint automatically, and automatically the right link
So it's
type
way
has
more
been
visual
set.
than all the clicking that we're used to in Jira a lot.
Exactly. And you
Don't forget the component. Don't forget the assignee. Don't forget.
And you
this
can still
custom
do that.
field.
If you're used to that, you can still work on your issues. Agile Hive only uses Jira technology after all. So it's just custom fields filled, link types and stuff like that. So you can still do that, but it's much easier with this. And then, the pretty lines that you've talked about, dependencies, let's take a look. When you scroll down, you see the boards
Okay.
of the
It was
other
in red
teams.
already, but now that you're pulling it up, the lines appear.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you see the other teams' boards of your art down here, and you can go over, talk to them and see, well, oh, there's a lot of dependencies that we have. We need to replan. And when you replan, depending on, here you see that the color changes. There's
It's the same iteration now. Probably.
there's 3 different colors. I can show this here. If this work depends on that work. The line is green because that work has been planned before. If everyone delivers in time, no problem. If the 2 dependent work items are in the same iteration, it becomes yellow, kind of saying, well, might work out, but you better take a good look at it. And then we have the other instance of, drag it up here, it's easier to see, of red lines, meaning, well, you do need to replan because you cannot, finish this work because you need the result of that work. So that's very easy in Agile Hive. And you have a formerly known as program board, an art planning board, where then in the PI planning, all the teams with their draft plans come together with management, with stakeholders, with business owners, and all that, and talk about commitment and talk about how realistic is it that we can, kind of fulfill this plan in this PI. And what you see is here is the features of when they should be delivered, depending on the actual planning status of the teams. So this is a real cool view, and you see, again, dependencies, in this case, significant dependencies, so anything that might, kick out the delivery of a feature because something needs to be done internally or externally. So that's something that's very common in the SAFe context. It's called the art planning board. And this is also the connection that you have with Jira Align.
So this is now a level higher.
That's a level higher, exactly. So that's just a few examples of how easy it is to work with Agile Hive by SAFe means in Jira. So it empowers the people to do their work quicker in a known environment. Now Jira Align comes up on top of that and works with that exact data. And the easier it is for the teams to work with, in Jira,
The more
of course,
accurate my reports will be. Yeah.
Exactly. And then Jira Align makes much more fun when the data is
And I
there.
also don't need as many people licensed in Jira Align as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. You might know that I know that you know that when you buy a Jira app, you always need to buy the license for the entirety of the underlying Jira instance, which is always worth a discussion with our customers. With Jira Align, I think it's the only product that I know of at the moment with Atlassian. It's totally different. You have a kind of a ratio that they would like to achieve because they say, well, the teams still work in Jira, yet they do have some things that they might want to manage in Jira Align, like dependencies, which are a collaboration in Jira Align, which it's much more than just links between issues like we do in Agile Hive. And there's other stuff that you might want to be doing during PI planning, for example, as a team member. But usually there's hardly anything that you need to do on a daily basis in Jira Align. So maybe you don't work in Jira Align at all. So Atlassian says that there's a ratio of approximately 1 to 4. So when you have, let's say, 2,000 developers, you would only have to buy 200 Jira Align seats. But everyone could still work in Jira Align also, but knowing that
would be
only
1
like
to 10, right?
I'm sorry, 400, yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry.
Okay. That would be 1 to 5. 500 would be 1 to 4, but 500 times 4 is 2,000.
Yeah, 200. What am I saying? 500.
Whatever. So
400. 400. Yeah, 400. Because you have 1, 2, 4. You have 1,600 plus the 400.
Okay, like this. So
But
it would be,
after all,
1, 2, 4, that would be a fifth. Okay,
Yeah, exactly. So it's divided by 5, a fifth.
Yeah.
But that's just an approximation.
Yeah.
So don't get scared by these numbers. You don't need to start with 400 licenses with Jira Align. That's the cool thing. It's complex. You cannot just download it, test it, like you know from Jira apps. Jira Align needs to be serviced. You need some services in order to understand and implement it for your POC, but you can start with 30 people. 30 is the minimum number of licenses that you can buy.
Okay, cool. Well, that's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff, and you see how complex it is. I mean, going back to that big picture, it's just a very pretty, quite easy picture, but behind this picture, there's articles and articles
Every
and tons of information.
Has a book, I learned. 100 icons for 100 books
and
projects.
Okay. But you see, it's what I really want to stress and really find out. So if you could respond to this plea of mine, are you as companies that adopt SAFe interested in empowering the people in Jira, aka Agile Hive, and at the same time have these sophisticated portfolio and enterprise management needs that it would be worth for us to bring these two tools together for you? That's the question that I have and I would like to answer.
Yeah, so reach out to Peter if you belong to this
and Yannick
bracket.
From my team.
How can people reach you?
Well, we have a website. We've been working in our Agile at Scale portfolio. It's a solution portfolio. We work with partners. We want to. Our goal is to kind of answer any SAFe question in the world. Working very closely together with Keygon, especially from the methodology side. We have a website that's called Tools for Agile Teams at Scale, where you can reach us. There's a link that where you can book calendar slots from with Yannick and I. And also, well, you find me on LinkedIn. And,
we'll put all the links and also the email address in the show notes. Cool. Thank you so much for your time, Peter.
Martin, thank you for having me.
What is it that we're missing? Is there anything that people watching this video will miss out on?
We have just touched the surface, so we could do this over and over and going into depth.
Okay, for those people of you who speak German, I understand that you have recorded a in-depth Agile Hive introduction in our academy.
Yeah, but
right?
There is. Exactly.
So if you're buying your Atlassian licenses through Seabed Media, your whole company could access this. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'll have to go through Peter and get access for yourself. There's probably a lot of videos, others than ours, on YouTube that you could look at. You can come to our website, see the link below. Talk to Peter, schedule a call with him or Yannick.
And one thing that's really cool, since Jira Align is quite complex again, and I only touched the surface. Atlassian is very cool in working as partners. So if you're interested in Jira Align, we can always set up a demo together with Atlassian and us, and then at the same time show you Agile Hive and kind of show you how you leverage the two of the tools together.
Okay. Then there's obviously in the SAFe area, there's those Keygon people who can help you with all the organizational and cultural things. They offer a bunch of trainings also in English. What else?
But especially in German, yeah.
Is there a book that you would want to recommend, or?
Is there a book? I think the most talked about book now since SAFe 6.0 is out, and it looks a lot on flow, because after all, what slows us down is bottlenecks, and so improving flow is a main theme at the moment. And Mick Kirsten's book, Project to Product, is probably a book that I would recommend to everyone who is thinking about having to scale Agile.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here and sharing all this with us. Thanks for doing it in English.
No problem.
yeah, just contact us if you have any questions.